Marie's case takes a turn. We're introduced to Amber and her heinous crime, and we finally meet Detective Duvall. It's episode 2 of the unbelievable after show on AfterBuzz TV, and it starts right now.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
How's everyone doing out there? Hey, how's it going?
Welcome in.
Welcome. This is the unbelievable after show on AfterBuzz TV. My name is Flobo Boyce, and thank you so much for keeping me in your lives and second screens. There it is. Unbelievable. The Netflix original series. We're going to delve into episode 2, but before we do all that, let's introduce my co-host this evening. She is the star of the Real Housewives of Potomac after show. Get it up for Miss Alexis Brown. How you doing?
The star, though.
Yeah.
Yes, and the applause. Hello.
Check it all in. Yeah.
Yes, take it in.
How you doing? Are you good?
I'm good. I'm excited to talk about this show.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The second episode already setting up things that we know we're going to pay off. We saw the Detective Duvall. We actually see Marie's case and even Amber's case. So before we get into all that, just overall thoughts of this episode in relation to what we saw just a minute ago with episode 1.
Yeah, I think I'm starting to piece things together in my head based on what I've just seen in episode 2. Of course, it was cool to see new things revealed, and it's exciting to see how things are going to shape up together. So I enjoyed it.
Just going back to our preview episode, do you think the show is progressing the way you thought it would, or just kind of like it's taking its own twists and turns? Or
I think it is progressing the way I thought. It was just that battle of not knowing what is what and who's right and who's wrong, but still kind of feeling empathy for, the people that are involved, even if you don't feel like you should feel empathy for them. So I think I've kind of been on track with it. The only thing is I predicted that she was going to kill herself, and she didn't end up doing it, which I guess is a good thing that she didn't, but I actually thought that was what was going to happen, so I was wrong about that. But everything else has kind of been on track.
To me, I thought that was kind of a swerve, right? The way it ended with her going on the bridge, I thought she would have spent like a couple more minutes deciding to not jump. It seems like episode 2. I'm just kidding. But I did not. The jokes aside, but we'll get to more of Maria's case. But definitely, this episode really focused on Amber. Amber's case was definitely one that was, as the episode went on, got more and more complex. Just your thoughts about what Amber, just generally speaking, what she saw for this episode.
Yeah. So surprisingly, I guess I was surprised just in her reaction on how calm she was after what just happened.
Absolutely.
I thought the same thing in the last episode, but really in this one, because I felt like I believed this one a little bit more than the last one. I've never been in that situation, thank God, and I pray I never am, but I just would imagine that I would be a lot more distraught, a lot more just broken up. Yeah. And she seemed to really hold it together. But the main difference I noticed was just how the detective approached her.
Correct.
It was just a lot more empathy. It was more comforting. She was actually asking questions to get answers and not just interrogating her on trying to get certain things. And she actually cared enough to make sure she got home. And she felt more comfortable because even in the first episode, the detectives offered to drive Marie home, but she didn't want to get in the car with them. Not how they were acting with her, but she felt safe with this detective. And I feel like that's how all detectives should be after a rape.
Yeah, that's a lot to unpack here. I was torn with Detective Duvall's approach. On one hand, I agree with you. I feel like she was willing to ask questions and say, take your time. She's not interrogating her in public view. She has her in the car. But at the same time, I kind of felt like it was so quick. Maybe it wasn't the best bedside manner. I was personally flip-flopping. But hearing you say that, I guess I can reinforce the fact that of the 2 detective approaches, I will rock with Detective Duvall's. But one of the things that really... Now, again, I'm not really knowledgeable in this thing, but you would read fictional tales of sexual assault. It seems to be very, very quick, very, very flash in the pan kind of thing. But Amber's case, you said it went over a course of 4 hours of this individual, this attacker, this assailant, asking for specific things, and it kind of puts into perspective how much he had to recall, right?
Yeah, for sure, and I guess it kind of goes against what I was fighting for with Marie on the last episode, because I just always assume people who have just gone through something traumatic or even something like a car accident, they can't remember right off the bat what happened. But she told, the detective everything, and of course more things came up over time as she continued to talk to her. But I mean, she was able to piece everything together. So I guess the biggest lesson in all of this is every situation is different and every person is different.
Yeah, I mean, can I speculate and say that since Amber was so calm, if you weren't well versed in people who are victims of sexual assault, you would think that she'd be the one that'd be more like, oh, okay, maybe it might be as truthful. But I found it was interesting that the detective there didn't care. It was like, if she said it was true, she's absolutely going to go down every single path to find a cure for that.
Yeah.
And it's also, to me, when they were trying to figure out who could possibly be the assailant, how unique marks I think will come into play, right? He had the birthmark on his left calf.
Yeah, so much detail. Like, because even when she went to the house of the neighbor and she was like, is there someone who can attest to the fact that y'all were out camping? I would think you could just go in there and be like, hey, can you pull up your pant leg? Let me see if you have this birthmark. And then could have just ended it from there.
Well, that'd be probable cause, right? I'm not sure the legality of it all. But
that's true.
It was funny how people just gave that guy up. Like, oh, he has a headlamp. He's crazy. I was like, wow. I mean, it's interesting because like I live in an apartment complex. There's 31 apartments or 16 apartments. And I talked to maybe 2 of the neighbors, right? If something would happen to me where I could be innocent, like I'm sure my neighbor would throw me under the bus.
Probably.
Like he didn't say a word to anybody. He crazy, you know what I'm saying?
I would.
I appreciate that. No, your honesty is great. Good night, everybody. No, I'm kidding. So Roey was a weird guy with a headlamp, and when he answered the door, he was kind of like a man-child, like, Mom, what's going on? But here's a question I have for you. Do you think he's possibly doing it, or that's more of a red herring? Probably more of a prediction question, but I just want to see just your thoughts about Roey.
Do I think Roey did it?
No, I'm just saying that you think he's like in play as a suspect, or you think it's more of a red herring, the fact that on the first lead detective went down, it was like this mom being like, what's wrong with you? And it's more complex. You know.
I mean, just off of the little snippet we saw of him, would he really... I mean, we didn't see much of him, but the way that she described the rape, he really had to like sit down and plan and think everything out and just really be structured in how he did everything. And Roey doesn't seem like the type of person who could really do all of that.
Right. Her mom even implied that, saying it's usually the nice guys.
Right, exactly.
Which is kind of scary if you think about it, because they're raised to be nice. So now you're walking around like, well, who is nice?
Trust nobody.
Trust nobody. No, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, like again, I was surprised at the moment because you were saying before that Amber was very, very matter of fact with her recollection of what happened. If you want to go into detail that, we can. But to me, the moment when she had to call the friend and say, "Hey, look, I can't go home," she broke down for a bit,
right?
Which was a tender moment for her. But I want to see your thoughts about that, of her on the phone breaking down, having Duvall like 3 feet away from her, like pretending to not hear or listen.
I mean, when that happened, I kind of felt not a relief, but I was like, okay, now I feel like I can relate because she's finally showing some sort of emotion. So maybe she just felt like she kind of had to hold it all together when dealing with the situation with the cops and with the detective. And when she finally talked to her friend, she felt comfortable enough to let it out.
Yeah.
That's when it became more like, okay, I understand it now. Yeah. And it really made me think like, okay, just because somebody doesn't respond in a way that you think you would respond or you think somebody should respond doesn't mean that it didn't happen to them, doesn't mean that they're acting unusual. People are just different. And I really think that people should have thought about that with Marie's case, because maybe they wouldn't have come at her the way that they did.
Yeah, it was very resourceful on Amber's part to actually like sit there and try to interview her rapist to get more information for about that. So she has the wherewithal. I think that one of the characters actually mentioned she had the wherewithal to do that.
Yeah, like I just can't imagine being in that situation, but I wouldn't suspect being in that type of mindset to even think to do that.
Right.
That shocked me.
Yeah, for sure. Before we move on, Alex, can you do us a world a favor and tell the world how people can interact with this AfterBuzz show and other AfterBuzz shows?
Yes. So if you're watching right now, of course, you already know how to interact with us on YouTube. So make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. But you can also listen to us on iTunes. So if you listen to us on iTunes, or if you're listening to us on iTunes right now, please make sure to give us a 5-star rating. And no matter whether, And no matter whether you're listening or watching, please continue to watch and support every day, because we can't continue to be the ESPN of TV talk without you. So thank you for tuning in.
Yeah, and she actually trusts you guys, not me. She trusts you guys. We'll trust you to do that. Going back to Marie's case, we got some developments there after admitting, or maybe not even admitting, but just saying that her attack was made up. She's suffering the consequences with this by outside and inside forces. Off the top, man, she was not herself, going to work late. So I know we don't have a definitive answer, but it seems to me that she did get attacked, but didn't say it wasn't true. Thoughts?
Yeah, or just the aftermath of if she did lie, how this lie has affected her life because she has no friends. Her boss, I don't know if her boss was already like that towards her, but her boss is being super mean to her. She couldn't even go watch TV with her foster dad because he doesn't trust her, basically. He thinks that she could lie on him. So it could be because of the rape and how that's turned her life around, and she was assaulted and nobody believes her. Or I guess not that nobody believes her because she said she didn't do it, but she feels like she can't be honest about her truth. Or she's just feeling like I made this huge mistake and now everybody hates me, and it's really either way, it's ruining her life.
I absolutely agree, and I'll delve into that just quite a second, but I kind of felt like the bridge scene now is out of order. Like, I would have bought it more if she had those two scenes at work and with her family getting punished with the curfew and her foster dad, then trying to say, well, I can't go to work, my friend, my whatever, I'm gonna go jump. But it seems kind of order now. But you're right, at work, I mean, look, I worked retail. I worked for a company I can't mention here because we're not giving free advertising. They're not as flexible as people think they are. It's
they're
like,
not.
Here's your hours. If you're not here, we're gonna cut them. That sort of thing.
Right.
And then having the idea of saying like, look, we're going to punish you at the halfway home because of what you did as an example. And they
That's
literally
so
said
crazy.
example, right?
Yeah, and I mean, isn't the whole point of that type of environment to help people who are going through things mentally? Like, I just feel like somebody who would do something as extreme about lying about a rape, they have to be going through something mentally. She's been through trauma, she's going through a lot. There's something that drove her to do something that insane if it really was a lie. So instead of really working with her to try to figure out what it is and help to heal her, they're like condemning her and trying to use her as an example. And I just think that's terrible. And I think she needs to go to a new halfway house or something, because how are you really trying to heal people if that's how you're treating people who act out? Because I would think people in that type of environment act out all the time. They do it in different ways, but they all have their own ways of dealing with their traumas. So I was really, really surprised by that, and it was really disappointing. And if it's really like that out there, I really feel for people who are going through things like this.
Absolutely. It was a bit puzzling having people that are theoretically they take training in psychological development for minors and all, saying that, hey, look, we have to make an example for you and other kids, and it's almost not really popular. Or cutting your privileges, like your curfew time, just because you lied. That reinforces that no one will come forward if that were the case, right?
I would think that it would actually be an opposite effect. Like, oh, this is how you treat someone who's going through something by, using, like, trying to use them as an example to control people or or make things worse for them.
Sure.
Like, I'm sure, like, they don't think that she's going through it internally. Like, why? She was already dealing with things before all this happened. So I think if it were me, if I was in that situation, I'd be like, wow, this is supposed to be a place that's supposed to help me. Yeah. But when this person needs help, you use her as a way to control me. It's it's weird.
Speaking of weird, I did not like the way how her foster dad was like, look, man, Colleen's not here, so you need to get out of here, but we can hang out later. I felt like I understand.
Yeah, I understood
the optics of it all, but I'm sure there's plenty of things you could have done that would have been okay. If you said, let's go to the fast food restaurant, or something like, or let's go to town, but he was like, all right, minor, you figure it out.
Yeah, leave on your bike in the middle of the night. That's a very good point. Like, if he really cared, I can understand. It's a sticky situation. I don't really want you in the house without Colleen because I don't want it to look really bad. But like you said, we could have gone to a diner. We could have just gone for, well, I guess if you're just out walking in the middle of the night, that looks bad too. But you could have found a way to comfort her and still be there for her, because obviously she needed to be taken away from everything that was going on. Right. And you basically just threw it back in her face when she kind of confided in you and told you that she needed a way to take her mind off of it.
Yeah, I can't hang out with you. You lied one time. To me, it was like a bad beat there. Hopefully he understands the error of his ways. I
hope Colleen digs into him.
Oh, yeah.
She probably won't. But if I was Colleen, I'd be like, why would you do that? Why would you send somebody out who's dealing with something like this just leave because of a mistake that she made? It's a pretty big mistake, because honestly, Flobo, after yesterday's episode, I really went home and reflected on this show. That's how you know it's a good show. That's how you know it's a needed show, because I really went home and reflected on it.
Absolutely.
And I was really defensive of Marie on the after show yesterday, but I really had to sit and think, if I was in this situation, if I was just a regular person in this world, and I had heard about a woman lying about a rape, especially how passionate I feel about women who do lie about rape and how it's affected my life personally and my family and people that I know, I probably would be like that too. Like, she's a liar. She could have ruined someone's life. She deserves all the bad things coming to her. But then watching it on this show, you can't help but to feel some sort of empathy for her.
Right.
So it's a weird place for me personally, emotionally, because I don't know if I should feel bad for her or if I should just really think like, oh, if I was in this situation, I probably wouldn't feel bad for her.
Yeah.
So it's just such a flip-flop of emotions.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if in the case if it was a lie, there's usually a reason, right? And we don't know what that reason is as of yet. But if it is a true attack, I do feel like everyone's quick to admit that and go, well, I guess you lied. You know, that's hopefully not saying hopefully, but I'm sure that will be a plot thread that will be addressed later on. Just it's a wow, she was so quickly dismissed. But definitely, we talked about it just a little bit earlier, but we've both seen Detective Duvall and Detective Rasmussen. Detective Duvall basically has like the main through line this go around, seeing how her police work. She is definitely a unique character. She's very tender when she needs to be and very tough on her team. Just your thoughts about Detective Duvall.
Honestly, what I got from her after getting to know her in this episode is I think that she has personally been through some sort of abuse, which explains why she was able to show that comfort to the girl, but it also explains why she could be a little bit tougher on her male the police officers and the male workers who work under her, because she was probably assaulted by a man. So she feels like she has to have that tough demeanor with men because she was put in a vulnerable position by a man, assuming it was a man, because you know. So I think that's probably why she has that way with. I keep slipping her name. Was it Anna?
Yeah. Anna?
Yeah, Anna. That's what I thought. Anna.
Amber.
Yeah. I don't know all these A names. Alexis, Amber. Hey, so yeah, that's why I think she's like that with Amber, and then like that with her male workers.
Yeah, for sure. There was a funny moment. He's like, "Hey man, we need a break, got a bathroom break." And she's like, "Nope." I was like, "Dang,
get to work."
That's gangsta.
Yeah.
Here at AfterBuzz, I make sure I always use the bathroom break before. You can imagine my producer was like, "No, just hold it and do your show right now."
Holding everyone up. Yeah.
Exactly. But her police style is definitely different than the detective we saw in episode 1. But I want to talk to you, even though we only saw her for a bit, about Detective Grace Rasmussen. So she was basically staking out an area that was considered part of like a rape investigation, and she goes in there, guns ablazing.
Yep, she was ready.
Against a perpetrator. Just your thoughts. I know it was like what 3 seconds or 6 lines of dialogue, but just your thoughts about that.
I knew when I saw her sitting in the car, I was like, uh-oh.
Toni Collette. What?
Yep, I was like, there goes Toni, and she is ready. But as soon as I saw the guy running in the forest, I was like, oh, this must be one of our guys. And it probably isn't, because I feel like that's too easy. But it's good that, you know, we have obviously a detective who's dedicated to finding who a person is and figuring out what happened, that she would just stake out like that in the middle of the night. So
yeah, for sure.
I feel like now, as we're starting to see more cases come up and we're starting to learn more about each case, and now we're getting to meet her, that I feel a little bit like I can trust her already, that she's going to do whatever she needs to do to get the justice that we're all looking for as viewers.
Yeah, that's definitely something to see. Again, just a little bit we see about Grace. We know that she has a bit of a edge to her, and hopefully that would be something that we can see more fleshed out as episodes go on. But moving on, now it's time for our special segment. It's time for Who Caught Ya?
Who Caught Ya? Who Caught Ya? Oh, I love it. I love the sound effects. Okay, Who Caught Ya? So it was so fun on the last show. It definitely is the lighthearted energy that we need with such a heavy show. So we're going to continue it this week, but I'm going to change it up a little bit this week. I'm going to give you the details of it, and I want you to try to guess how they got caught.
You want me to guess?
Yeah, I want you to try to guess.
I don't know if I can guess it. Okay, let's try.
I want you to try to guess how they got caught. So we have 2 Welsh tourists. They got drunk, and they stole a penguin from SeaWorld in Australia.
Wait. They're from Wales. They were in Australia. They got drunk, and it was like, oi, we're taking this penguin?
Yep.
Okay.
The penguin's name was Dirk, for people who wanted to know what his name was.
Dirk the penguin.
Dirk the penguin. Okay, so they were 20 and 21. They broke into the park, swam with the dolphins, let off a fire extinguisher in the shark enclosure, and then took off with Dirk, with the penguin.
Okay.
And so how do you think they got caught, and how do you think the penguin got back?
Wow. So if I had a penguin napping in a foreign country and no one noticed it, I think, well, penguins don't quack. I don't know what penguins, I guess it was screaming out really loud when it barked. I don't know.
Okay. They got caught. Well, one, they tried to they woke up the next day because they were drunk when they took it. They woke up the next day, they're like, oh, snap. We have a penguin.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
that's a quote. Oh, snap. You got a penguin.
And so they tried to take care of it. Like, they put it in the shower and just, ran water on it and tried to feed it. But it didn't work. So they tried to sneak back in and put it back. And that's how they got caught.
Oh, wow. Wow.
And so they got fined $1,000 Australian dollars. And the police who caught them told them to drink a little less vodka.
Yeah, I would just use Uber. Just have the penguin just show up.
Or just let the penguin free. I don't know.
Penguins can't fly. You see a penguin walking down the streets.
Yeah, I mean, I guess they were kind of trying to do the right thing.
Sure.
Like, why just free the penguin and run the risk of it getting hit by a car or not surviving? Let's just take it back where we found it so it has a chance. But that's how they got caught.
Man, who caught you? Your
Who
dang
caught ya?
self. That's there you go. And lastly, it's now time for our predictions.
Okay, I have to think about this.
Oh, this is my favorite one.
And now, your AfterBuzz TV.
Okay, so I don't think we really talked about how this was kind of flipping between time period, not periods, but
Sure.
One with Maria was in 2008. With Amber was in 2011. So even though it's 3 years later and in different states, I think they're just gonna correlate in some way. I don't know if it's gonna be the same rapist who raped Marie raped Amber, or maybe they all work together. I definitely saw some similarities in, how he used the girl's own ribbon to tie her up as well as using her own shoelaces to tie her up.
Sure.
So my prediction, in saying all of that, my prediction is that we're going to find out that the person who raped Amber also raped Marie, and that they're not the only two women, that he's just been going around, this is something that he's doing. And I think they're going to figure that out because it's going to be more girls coming forward who have similar stories, and all of it's going to tie in together.
So following up there, you think there's an escalation from this one person that back when it was a Marie's crime, it had a certain amount of skill set, and as the years got on, he got more and more.
Yes. I wasn't saying that, but I wasn't saying that, but that's what I think now that you've said it.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah, it makes sense because it's 3 years apart. So
Yeah.
he had time to kind of perfect, how he was doing it. This time he took the ribbon ahead of time instead of taking it during the crime. It made, I guess, save time.
Yeah.
So that's a good way. Yeah, I think that's probably what
I mean,
happened.
it's solid. I do think these are almost like a novel. There's actually chapters that may seem disparate that we're going to come across towards the end. So yeah, I mean, I thought it'd be something either that or it may be a group, but I do think if it's one person, that'd be a good bridge there.
Yeah.
I got a question for you though. We saw Detective Duvall this episode. We got a glimpse of Detective Rasmussen. Do you think they meet up in episode 3? Do you think they cross
absolutely.
paths then, or do you think they're still going to be separate?
Well, I don't necessarily think it has to be in episode 3 or will be in episode 3, but I think they're definitely going to come together at some point.
Oh, absolutely. I want to put your feet to the fire. Is it going to happen in the next episode or the episode after?
Honestly, I just am trying to expect the unexpected.
Fair.
This next time. We don't know what's going to happen. It could be Dirk the Penguin. We don't know what's going to happen.
Dirk with a cameo. Yeah. Sure. That'll be a swerve.
Yeah.
We're almost out of time, but is there anything else you want to add about what your thoughts about this episode or any other tidbits you wanted to share with our people out there?
Yeah, I think one thing I've learned just in these 2 episodes is just no matter what a situation may look like, no matter if there's any type of evidence or non-evidence or hearing different voices from people in your head, always take time to be empathetic towards people and to really put yourself in people's shoes before you judge anyone, before you talk about anyone, before you put anyone down, because you never know what people are going through. You never know what people are thinking mentally. You never know what people have been through in their past that brought them to this point. And you never know what the truth could really be in anything.
Absolutely.
So the lesson I'm learning, and I hope everybody takes from it, is never be judgmental. Always think in a caring and empathetic way and give people the benefit of the doubt sometimes. crimes. It's hard, I know, especially in situations that seem so straightforward and to the point, but you never really know what's happening until you're in somebody's shoes.
Absolutely. I think for the first 2 episodes, it's becoming more and more apparent that these sex-based crimes have so much of a psychological element more than everything else. There's bedside manner and tact are more important than, say, like a burglary or such. Yeah, there's violation there, but it's a whole different animal with even like the medical observation, whether it's recounting the story over and over again. There is that dynamic, that dualism even of like, well, here's what I know. I've been trained to do this to find the evidence, but then I'm dealing with personalities and the community's response to that. So I like the fact they're doing it in different ways with through our police officers or all 6 of them that we've seen so far. At least all 4 of them I've seen so far. But I'm hoping we get to see more angles of that. Because that's, to me, that's my jump on point. Like, how does different people, different police officers with their own personalities, their own individual issues, deal with these crimes? So,
or how what they do can really just shape somebody's life. Because maybe if the detectives in Marie's case came with the same, comfort and compassion that the detective in Amber's case did, maybe the story would have stayed the same, or maybe they would have gotten actual truth, or I don't know. It could have been so different. So I think just remembering that there are good cops out there, but I wish all cops were good cops, because if our justice system was a lot better, there'd be a lot of things that aren't happening.
Fair enough. But we're out of time. Sierra, where can the world find you on the internet and other things like that?
They can find me on Twitter and Instagram at I am Lexi Fierce. That is IAMLEXIFIERCE.
Yeah, if you want to find me, I'm hanging with Dirk the Penguin on Twitter at Flobo Boyce.
Oh snap, we got a penguin.
On Instagram at Flobito and Flobito.com. Thank you so much for tuning in, and come on back for the next episode of the Unbelievable After Show. And until then, buzz you later.
Buzz you later.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.